There it is. Okay, welcome everyone. As a reminder, this is a meeting of community volunteers tasked to advise council on items related to the Water Bureau and the Bureau of Environmental Services. I always forget, my name is Lauren Rosencrans. I am co-chair and voting member for the pub. Under Portland City Code and state law, the Portland Utility Board is holding this meeting electronically. Board members and relevant city staff are attending remotely, electronically, or by phone, and the city has made it available for the public to listen to the audio broadcast of this meeting. The public will have an opportunity to provide comments during the public comment portion of the agenda and can also provide written testimony to the board by emailing utilityboard@portlandoregon.gov. Excuse me. Hub believes and acts upon anti-racist principles. In our meeting spaces and interactions with Pub, while every person has the right to share their personal perspective, we stand against wrongful conduct, particularly any conduct that is targeted toward people that are made vulnerable by systemic inequities. This means stepping up as a community when there is wrongful conduct and fostering a space of learning and growth. By putting our principles into action, we are active and deliberate. We speak up and speak out. Each person is empowered to maintain the culture of the Portland Utility Board, and we focus on the impacted individual or population, condemning the conduct, not the person.
Hi, my name is Amy Archer-Masters, and I'll quickly run through the meeting guidelines. Please state your name before you speak, and if appropriate, who you're addressing. The chat box is only viewable by the co-hosts, myself and Jonna Lynn. Please limit any chats to technical and logistical issues, including signing up for public comment, asking for technical assistance, or reminding us if you've been waiting to speak and have not been called on. The raise hand function is primarily used by the board during discussions. The co-host may lower your hand once you begin speaking just to maintain the flow of conversation. During public comment periods, public can also raise your hand and you'll be called on when appropriate. If you're connecting by phone, press *9 to raise your hand. Videos can be turned on when speaking if desired. It is not required. We do ask that you mute your microphone when you're not speaking, and if connecting by phone, you may need to press *6 to mute and unmute. Public comment is taken during the comment period early in the meeting. You can sign up through chat with myself or Jonna Lynn, or raise your hand during the comment period. It's also available just prior to any formal board vote after a motion has been made and seconded by board members. The meeting's being recorded. I'll pass it back to you.
Thanks. Okay, so we just ran through our call to order and disclosure of communications. We are going to hear from a brief update from City Administrator. Is that happening now, or should I go through the rest of the agenda?
You can run through the agenda, and then I think the DCA just entered the room, so we'll give them a moment, and then we'll jump to that.
Okay, welcome DCA, Donna Paul. So after a brief update, we're going to do a public comment review and review of our last meeting's minutes. We're mostly focusing today on hearing about the affordability framework. I believe we're receiving a presentation, and we're also going to continue some internal work and followed up by announcements talking about the field trip tomorrow, which is exciting, and our next pub meeting before we adjourn. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and hand it to you, DCA Donna Paul. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Co-Chair, and thanks for allowing me to join on short notice. I have a very quick update. I'm pleased to share that we have 3 outstanding finalists for the Portland Public Utilities Director position. We had partnered with Modus Recruiting to conduct a comprehensive national search, and the posting attracted approximately 100 applicants, and we had rigorous evaluation and interviews, and we've identified 3 candidates, whose professional qualifications and leadership capabilities, as well as their experience with managing utilities, distinguish them to stand out as finalists. And I'm happy to share the names of the 3 candidates and where they are from. The first one is April Bingham, and I'm sharing this alphabetically. April Bingham, who's the former senior director of the Department of Public Utilities from City of Richmond, Virginia. The second finalist is Fisher Light, our interim director with the Portland Water Bureau. And the third finalist is Ting Lu, who is the interim director for Portland's Bureau of Environmental Services. We have a webinar where each of the candidates will be introducing themselves to our staff in water and BES, and also answering some questions, basically the vision for this position and with respect to the joint utility as well. And that is scheduled today, this afternoon, between 2 to 3:30 p.m. And I was hoping to invite you all to that presentation if you have availability to come and join us. It's a webinar, so it's listen only. But we will have a survey that will be sent out at the end of the presentation where you can provide feedback in the survey. So that's I wanted to quickly come in, share the update, and formally invite you to that the webinar. And that is all I had. If you have any questions, happy to answer it.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. We should have all received an email from Jenna Lynn this morning. Was sent with additional information about that. Kyle, go ahead.
This might be covered during the 2 p.m. webinar, but can you just very briefly cover the timing of the selection, and is it who makes the selection? Just like a couple high-level logistics.
Yes, the timing of the selection, we're hoping to have the director in place by the end of the year, so very soon. It's not too far away. And sorry, what was the other question again?
Just who makes the selection, and just any other high-level logistics that help frame the webinar.
Great, thank you. So the hiring, I'm the hiring manager for the position, so I'm the ultimate decision maker. But I make that decision in consultation with Mayor Wilson and City Administrator Mike Jordan. So it's a consultative decision, but the decision is made with input from the panelists who were there in the interview. We had union leaders also present. We had council representation, and then today we'll have the all staff. And I would be grateful to hear your thoughts as well through the survey. So it's an informed decision that is made in consultation with the mayor and city administrator. If that helps.
Thanks, Alexis.
Hi, I'm Alexis Rafe, board member. Just a question, since it's a little last minute notice, is the webinar going to be recorded? And could that be sent out to the pub board?
Thank you. We anticipated this question, and because of the confidentiality of the candidates, I think for this particular webinar, we will not be recording it, but I'm happy to come at a future pub meeting to share what we learned, if that would be helpful.
Any other questions?
I'm sorry. This is Julia DeGraw. How is that link? Has that link already been shared with us to be able to drop in an email, or is that coming?
The link
I've shared-
oh,
Sorry,
sorry.
go
The link can be shared after the meeting to anyone who would like it. If you'd like, I can send it to all pub members, and if you're available, you can attend.
I think that would be good. And another board that I serve on, I was as chair, I was one of the folks on the hiring committee. I feel like at the very least we should try to, if we can, for transparency, like drop in just to see what's going on. So even just one of us can make it, it'd be nice to have the perspective of a board member from what they saw, if it's possible. So I'm gonna try. I got to look at my calendar. I might be able to drop in. We'll see.
But yeah, that's kind of how I am, Julia. I asked for the link, and I'll be working, obviously, but we'll try to drop in if I have some free space. So I think that would be best, Jonalyn, if you wouldn't mind just sharing the link so that everybody has the opportunity.
Yes, I will do that.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, DCA Donna Paul, for your time.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to your participation and engagement. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. And then, of course, if anybody has any other questions, I think it's totally kosher to forward them along whenever to pub staff, and we can pass anything to DCA Donna Paul. Yeah, Alexis, go ahead.
Yeah, I can't attend the meeting today. I have a conflict, and so would really appreciate it if anyone who can attend could send out notes, perhaps, to the board, because I would just be really interested to see folks' perspective from you all.
Sure, thanks. I don't know if I'll personally have the capacity, but if possible, maybe we could just start an email thread and whoever has input. I don't know if that's kosher, Amy or Jonalyn, if we can just provide notes over email.
Pub staff will be participating, or will at least be listening in. So as far as summary notes, we can share some basics with you all. We do have a few folks who had already indicated their hope to be able to attend. So I'm hoping we'll have at least one or two members who can participate. You can't have like a full group email dialogue about information, but we can, for whoever does participate, make sure that we gather feedback from the rest of you and can submit it to those who did participate, so that if they are completing a survey, they can make sure that they keep in mind other people's perspectives as well, if that works for the group.
I think that's great, personally. Julia, you have some input? We're getting a thumbs up from Alexis, so.
I have an additional question. And I realize it's the process has already been decided on. The decision hasn't been made, but the process is like obviously like carved out. But is there any way for us to provide input, like either individually or collectively, on our thoughts on the candidates? Yeah.
My understanding is they're sending a survey out after, so you'll be able to
Okay.
provide input that way.
Okay.
Is that correct?
And well, I guess my other question then, though, is how is that going to be considered? You know what I mean? I'm just trying to understand, is that going to be weighted in any way? Is that just, I mean, I'm not trying to be too cynical, but like, I'm just trying to understand like how it's going to be used.
We can ask for more information from Priya Dhanapal. My guess is that it's a combination of that and all the other feedback that she's received from folks who have been part of panels, as well as, you know, their internal workings. So I don't know that we'll get much detail about how it's weighted, unless there is, you know, a mechanism that she has on how that decision is being made. But we will certainly do what we can to make sure that we convene and or collect all the input and make sure that it's provided through the surveys. And if the pub wants to provide additional feedback just directly to Priya, then I think that always is an option. I mean, she's going to take information that's available.
But so is that survey also going to be shared at the same time as the link to the meeting? I just want to be like
we don't have the
clear on
survey
where and
yet,
when I
so
can get that link.
yeah, I think the link is just to the Zoom, so that it's the webinar, so that you can hear from the three candidates. And then the survey, I believe, will be sent out after the meeting. So as soon as we see
Okay.
that, we can share that with and make sure that everybody who participated receives it. And then also, you know, whether there's opportunity for feedback from all of you that we could incorporate into a response.
Okay,
Thanks, Amy. I have Alexis and Kyle's hands up, and then I want to be wary of time and move on.
Yeah, I'll
But go
be
ahead.
brief. I just have a quick kind of process suggestion that if folks are able to go and understood, right, then Amy and Jonalyn, if you all can help compile kind of like notes from the presentations. I'm looking at our calendar and it looks like our next meeting is December 2nd. And so I'm wondering if this could be an agenda item where we could then discuss what pubs feedback should be, and then we could, follow our normal procedure to like send a letter in addition to individuals filling out the feedback survey. But I reading kind of between the lines of what Julia is saying, I think that it would be powerful for us as a pub to share some of our feedback. I'm not sure if that necessarily needs to be like a recommendation for one candidate versus another, but at least like some of our thoughts on strengths or any kind of concerns that we might have about a candidate. Not sure if that's a process that we could do.
I like that idea, Alexis. Thanks for that input. And we have some internal work on the agenda today, so maybe we could talk about that a little bit more since that's a high priority item. And also, we have an upcoming leadership meeting, so maybe we can integrate that a little bit if the timing makes sense. Amy, please correct me if that doesn't work. Kyle, go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry for the delay. I was also responding. Priya had to jump off for another message, but was asking whether there were additional questions. So I was shooting a couple to her really quickly. So I will let you know if I hear feedback. But otherwise, I think what you were suggesting makes sense.
Great.
Cool. Kyle Chipman, board member or voting member. This is not a question, but this is just for the sake of the public record and my fellow board members. Another personal point of interest in this entire decision-making process, because we have interim directors Light and Lou both receiving kind of final nomination or shortlisted candidacy, I am deeply curious about the strategy and structure and interface between the One Water director and both of the bureaus, especially if Director Light or Lou are selected. Who takes their place? How do all these agencies or bodies interact? Like that. That for me is as meaningful because it sounds like everyone's qualified, but how does everything jive and fit together? So that's just a point of interest for me, which may or may not be part of today's candidate. It might be focused on individuals. I'm as interested in organization and structure. Thank you.
I think that's a valid question. Amy, if you have capacity to share that with DCA Donna Paul.
Yeah, I suspect I know that some basic information was shared at an internal employee town hall about some of the structural stuff, but it was preliminary. And so the information, I don't have answers to those specific questions, but I was anticipating that at some point in the not too distant future, hopefully we can have the DCA or certainly by the time the new director is hired, have some more structural information and background about the bureaus. It will feed into the budget discussions as well. And so I expect hopefully that's something that can be discussed with the leadership meeting at the December 9th meeting, and then also in planning for the January meetings.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Lauren. I have one more brief point, which is more just like a human observation, and then I will yield for the rest of our agenda. Is that I know this is like a big decision, and it is literally last minute because it came in like 59 minutes before the meeting started. But at a human level, it kind of is like, it's a bummer. It feels like everyone's having to move so quickly with fewer resources, trying to do more with less and just keep pace. That this is like not malice or malfeasance or whatever. It's just trying to make things, trying to enact and execute. I just really do want to emphasize how consequential the decision and that like we're both value the consideration in the survey, but that also we're not moving too quickly to set something in place that then has downstream implications or challenges. So just a general observation.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, yeah, Lorraine, go ahead.
Just a quick, historical. The last recruitment for the BS director that was done. I believe the pub was invited to have one of its members. So just for the new members and stuff like that. And I agree. since we interact so closely with the utility bureaus or one bureau, whatever it's going to be now, I just wanted to share that piece of information that so that we'll have a perspective of what has been done in the past and what hasn't been done now. So again, just to highlight, we are integral and have been working collaboratively. And to know that, at least one pub member could have been invited to be on the search committee, but we won't. So just an observation.
Thanks, Lorraine. Appreciate that input. And like I said, we're having doing some internal work a little bit later in the agenda, and we're specifically discussing how we can drive engagement a bit further. So I think that's really important feedback. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, Julia.
I will be super, super quick. I'm going to go a step further than what Lorraine said, because like I said, I'm on another commission where I was on the final hiring committee for a director level position that was really relevant to our work. And it feels like a pretty big omission to like not have included a member of the pub through this process or at any stage of the process. Being invited to observe the final interviews and fill out a survey that we have no idea how important that survey is or how seriously it's going to be taken just feels really not great. So, and an extension of kind of like what we've been complaining about for years at this point. So it is disappointing. But like I also have been missing meetings. So like I apologize about being out of the loop, but it's just I didn't ask to be on that hiring committee, but they put me on it in that other situation. And I think that it's not like our fault for not asking to be on it. It was something that I think should have been a consideration in the process from the beginning.
I agree. And I think we all kind of share that frustration. And so I wonder if like later when we're talking about internal work, if we could even figure out some way to like share those frustrations, because I know we've been discussing them internally and definitely since I've been on the board, but it sounds like been an ongoing issue and how to communicate that to try to make it better. Yes, Jonalyn.
Just wanted to clarify that pub leadership team did meet with DCA Donna Powell at the beginning of July. So co-chairs were able to meet and as part of the planning process with I'm not pushing back. I just want to make sure that folks are aware of that having been part of the process. But that feedback will be certainly good for us to get and provide for leadership.
But that's very different than being on a hiring committee, though. It's just different. Like, I'm glad we were involved in a planning process. That's great. But to like not have a single person from the pub involved at any stage of actually interviewing candidates or whatever just feels like a pretty big omission. But anyway, that is good to know. Thank you I think that's good clarification and something that should be on the record. It's not the same thing as being on part of the interview process.
Yeah, and I think even so, it's always been more like information sharing, not necessarily collaboration or being a part of the decision-making process, which is what I think Julia and Alexis and a lot of us are feeling is lacking. So good feedback. And like I said, we're going to talk about some relevant stuff to that. So maybe we can make that, Kyle, a part of our priority list. Awesome. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to move on, but like I said, we're discussing a bit more internal stuff later. And if something else comes up, please share with pub staff or the co-chairs. We don't want anybody to feel like they weren't able to share because we didn't accommodate time for this discussion because we didn't know to accommodate time for this discussion. So, okay, so excuse me. Where am I? Okay, public or disclosure of communications, just a moment set aside for any voting members to disclose any communications with leadership or bureau staff regarding items related to pub's work. Any items to disclose? Jenny, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know how much this counts. I did have a sort of general information informal meeting, and there was, let's see, the director of state lands who used to work for BES. She was there, Caitlin Lovell, and then also David Longue from the Portland Water Bureau. And it was just an overview of projects and what everybody was working on.
Great. Thanks for sharing. Amy, I admit I've not had anybody share during that section. Is that something that we need to discuss, or is it just for
Nope,
record?
it's just for the record. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Okay, and then just a call for public comment. Please use the chat box if you're a member of the public to sign up to give public comment, and you'll be called by name. Have we received any comments prior to the meeting?
No, nothing was received in advance, so.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, give it a second. All right. November 4th minutes were distributed. Any suggested changes or corrections? It's a beautiful photo. Okay, hearing none, we can accept the minutes as they are. All right. And thank you to our presenters for your flexibility. I know we're running quite a bit behind. So we are welcoming Utility Bureau staff to share information regarding their development of an affordability framework. We have Water Equity Manager Eric Pacheco. Oh, sorry, Pacheco. How do you say your name, Eric?
Eric Pacheco.
Pacheco? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I should have asked beforehand. Eric Pacheco and BES Revenues Programs Manager Sherry Peterson. Gonna hand you the floor.
Can I request to share our screen? And I just want to clarify, I'm no longer the equity manager. I'm strategy integration policy manager since
Awesome.
Last year. Thank you.
Congratulations, I think.
Thank you.
Mhm.
To presentation, and I would love it if you can give me a thumbs up if you can see. All right, Sherry, you want to kick us off?
Sure. Thank you. Again, Sherry Peterson, Revenue Programs Manager for Bureau of Environmental Services. And thank you for inviting us here to talk about the draft 10-year affordability framework. Today, we're going to cover the development of the framework, the inputs that informed it thus far, and share with you what our next steps are. So next slide, please. And what we're hoping to accomplish today is to share our guiding principles, the journey or our recent history around affordability, and why it's important that we have an affordability framework in recognition of the current landscape. We'll touch a bit on our existing customer assistance programs. Eric will then dive into our vision, how we've organized this work into 3 pillars and arrived at some of our affordability objectives and strategies. And he'll also walk through our planned next steps, which include the development of a communications strategy, a work plan, and reporting out. We should have time at the end to answer questions and get your input. So again, my hope is to move through this rather quickly. Next slide. So our guiding principles, they're around transparency, access, stewardship, and continuous improvement. They're reflected in longstanding city and bureau value statements. In the affordability space, we've heard from community partners that they want to learn more about our customer assistance programs and the services we provide and the cost of delivering those services. We've also heard, and we know through a number of analyses, that not all have access to our programs for a myriad of reasons, whether that's in the program design or outreach methods. And the bureaus and the city at large is committed to being fiscally responsible and good stewards of our water resources. That's how we approach our operations and capital investment. And with a number of city organizational changes underway, we have a new opportunity to increase operational effectiveness and efficiency and create an even better customer experience. Next slide. So our affordability journey has been a long one. We've been offering a suite of customer assistance programs since the early 1990s. But we know that water utility rate affordability is much more than just the customer assistance programs, and we'll share more about that later. We saw strong renewed interest in affordability among the community and city leadership in 2020. There was a sharp increase in delinquencies beginning in 2020 through the COVID pandemic. At that point in time, we were able to access one-time federal relief to stand up a couple of temporary programs to support our residential and commercial customers. And though we eventually got back to more typical delinquency rates, we continue to face affordability challenges, which I'll outline in the next slide. So in 2023, the Bureau's partnered with PSU, and we brought on an Oregon Hatfield Fellow to produce a snapshot of our affordability work and recommendations for how we can improve upon it. And I'll describe that in the next slide. Last year, we joined the U.S. Water Alliance Task Force, and we formalized our partnership in that space with Verde and AW, the African American Association of Homeowners. That participation includes regular peer utility and community partner learning exchanges. And we were also able to attend the One Water Summit. And this past summer, Eric and I facilitated staff workshops on affordability, which Eric will cover what we gathered in those workshops from those SMEs. And we spent the fall synthesizing all of these inputs from PSU, community partners, U.S. Water Alliance, and both Bureau staff with the intent to operationalize our shared priorities. And again, Eric will share more details. So we'll have a higher level engagement effort going on this winter. And then in January, we plan to develop work plans, which again include a communication strategy. Next slide. So why an affordability framework? We know national research shows that the utilities have a significant impact on community in terms of social, economic, and environmental benefits. And the Bureau has wanted to develop an affordability framework in recognition that our capital investments and operating costs will only continue to increase, given that there's little federal funding and we need to do asset upgrades to be resilient, and we've got new regulations. We're seeing additional pressure being put on our rates. It should be noted that we currently have nearly a $7 billion backlog of work because of a lack of external funding. And again, just highlighting that our primary way of funding our work is relying on rates. An affordability framework then helps us illustrate why proactive and strategic investment is important, and it recognizes the challenges that we face, and it guides us towards advancing water utility rate affordability through actionable strategies. And we'll focus on that later. Next slide. I mentioned we had an Oregon Hatfield Fellow produce work for us. We asked this fellow to dig a little deeper into our affordability challenge. And after a half a year of research, that included interviewing over 50 individuals staffed throughout multiple bureaus, our fellow delivered a couple of reports that included a list of recommendations for the Bureau's consideration. We've already initiated work around several of them, and our other recommendations are going to be addressed in future work plans. And I'll just emphasize that for the past year or two, and for the next couple of years, we're going to continue to focus on community and customer assistance programs. You'll note that there's a recommendation in here to formalize an evaluation protocol for our financial assistance programs that can be applied to a number of other customer assistance measures. And that's for the purpose of improving operational efficiency and enhancing that customer experience. We're also really focused on reaching the hard to reach. And we've heard from many community members, including pub renters and other non-account customers, are a significant portion of our low-income population that are still experiencing significant living burdens. Okay, next slide. I'm actually going to skip over this one unless you want to add something, Eric. Okay. This is just a snapshot of our customer assistance programs. I'm only seeing half of the slide, but what it does is illustrate that. Thank you. Nearly 40 million in annual program investments are applied to our utility charges. I will note that the Clean River Rewards stormwater discount program here at over 12 million, isn't a financial need-based program, but it does lower bills for many of our customers that are doing stormwater management. There's other programs listed on here contributing to addressing lower bills, not just utility bills, but connection costs as well. And as I previously shared, we've recently and will continue to evaluate these existing programs to determine the extent that they continue to meet the original program goals. And we can also look at establishing new goals for these programs. I will also highlight that we have programs focused on single-family residential and multi-family residential customers, but we don't have any yet dedicated for small business. And we also recognize that we aren't reaching all in need and that the discounts need right-sized, and we can always improve program delivery. I think PUB's fully aware of this, but it's worth repeating. These customer assistance programs are funded by our rates, so we're not looking to increase funding for these customer assistance programs with additional rate increases, but rather to redistribute the discounts to meet our affordability objectives. Next slide, please. And to help us ground ourselves in developing this affordability framework, we had to define it. And fortunately, EPA and US Water Alliance have done that, and many utilities also point to it to help them guide their affordability work. The definitions between EPA and US Water Alliance are very similar. Essentially, it's calling out that households should be able to pay for critical water services without sacrificing other household needs. Next slide, please. And there are 3 affordability thresholds that help us determine how Portland stacks up. The 3 thresholds are, number 1, for households that are above the 20th income percentile, those households would pay no more than 3% of their income towards water services, and that includes water, stormwater, sewer services. And for households below the 20th income percentile, they would pay no more than 4.5% of their income towards water services. And then finally, another and third metric is that households should not have to put in more than 8 hours of labor at minimum wage rates to pay for a month of critical water services. Next slide. So how Portland stacks up is last fiscal year, the median single-family residential monthly bill was about $117 a month. That median includes both those participating in assistance and those not participating in our assistance programs. That's illustrated in the left graphic. And then on the right graphic, we break it down to show what the median bill is with assistance in Tier 1, Tier 2, and without it. And then you'll see in 2026 that from July until now, the median's a bit higher because consumption is generally higher in the summer months. Next slide. So these findings reveal that when we use EPA's metrics of affordability, 70 to 80% of Portland households can manage their water bills. And with assistance, Portland households are at or below both EPA thresholds at all income levels. However, we know that the 20th income percentile is above 3% of their income that's going towards those critical water services. It's close to 4%. And we also, again, know that many of our customers, like those multifamily residential renters, may not be eligible for our programs as they're currently designed. Next slide. Okay, so another way of communicating affordability, as I mentioned in one of the metrics, is hours at minimum wage to pay for monthly water, sewer, and stormwater bills. The median monthly bill is divided by that minimum wage rate to arrive at the number of hours an individual would have to work to pay their monthly bill. And I think it's worth noting that we've seen consumption go down, minimum wage rates go up, and also our storm sewer water rates go up. So the left graphic shows all single-family residential customers being below that 8 minimum hours threshold, and the right side breaks it down for those that are participating in our customer assistance programs. So again, our customers are below the 8-hour threshold even without assistance. And now I think I'll kick it over to Eric.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sherry. So as Carrie mentioned, we've been on a long journey to develop this framework, and we really wanted to create a participatory process to help inform everything that we're about to show you. And it took multiple iterations. We were really lucky to be invited to join the U.S. Water Alliance Affordability Task Force, which is a nationwide task force that includes multiple other utilities from across the country. And we were joined by Verde and the African American Alliance for Homeownership with a formalized MOU. And so they have been participating right alongside with us through all of the workshops, all of peer exchanges, and thinking of the early drafts of this framework, doing focus group with community members and doing workshops, doing surveys. And so everything that we're about to show you has been informed by our community partners and the stakeholders that they brought into this process, as well as over 50 subject matter experts from across water and BS. And we have been assigned an advisor from the U.S. Water Alliance who has also provided input and feedback into all of this. And so we've gone through, I think, 3 or 4 different drafts of this framework. And our goal is to make sure that regardless of people's incomes or housing type, that people are getting reliable and accessible services. There's no such thing more expensive than poorly run utility. And we also recognize that our situation today is changing, right? We have that $7 billion backlog in investment. And so we want to make sure that we are continuing to invest in our system, but we're making the necessary changes in how we manage our bills and our programs so that we can continue to meet the needs of the communities we serve. And as Sherry mentioned earlier, affordability is much more than just customer assistance programs, right? It's a 3-legged stool because our customer assistance programs are funded through rates. And so if you are not enrolled in those assistance programs and you happen to be low income and in a multifamily housing where we cannot reach you, well, you're going to be paying for all of those growths in assistance enrollment. And so one of the things we're trying to figure out is how do we update our programs and redistribute those funds that we currently have in ways that are more optimal, more efficient, equitable, so that we don't have a disparate impact on those rates. But a lot of it also has to do with how we manage our operations. We know the largest chunk of our budgets are our capital projects, those big infrastructure projects. They're the big items on our budgets. And so how we deliver those projects matters, but also how we optimize our ongoing operations with better processes, better practices, better technology. The world's changing around us and we have to change with it. And lastly, our rate structures also matter across the country. Everything that we are facing here in Portland is a nationwide issue. All utilities, water, sewer, stormwater utilities are encountering the very same issues. And there's been some creative rate structures that have been developed to get at this. How do we create rate structures that are more equitable, more fair, and that distribute costs fairly across all of our customer classes? And so with that, those 3 components in mind, you'll see that our framework leverages these 3 pillars. How do we update our customer and community assistance programs? How do we update our operations so we can continue delivering quality services at the lowest cost? And also, how do we diversify our revenue sources through updated rate structures and also looking at non-rate revenue? And for each one of these pillars, we've developed 3 horizons that are in 3 different timelines or time horizons. First, we're focusing on building community resilience and well-being, because we recognize that the build that communities experiences really matters to them, but how we communicate and engage them in these processes and make these programs accessible and available to them really matters. The next layer is really about the utilities are in this process of integrating. And so it's really about the enterprise integration and transformation, how we onboard technologies like the advanced metering infrastructure or customer engagement portal, do performance management initiatives so that we can be more data informed in our decision making. And then lastly is around strategic positioning optimization, really looking at how we use artificial intelligence or some other technologies to help us optimize how we operate, but also partner with other utilities in the region to source procurement and so on. So I want to make it clear that we are not seeing the work doesn't end, on those horizons. So when we think about those 3-year horizons, that's when we would like the benefits to be delivered, but we'll have to continue doing improvement of those programs with feedback and input from communities and data and our own practices. And so we have these horizons, but the work really continues over the long term. And our commitment is that we want by the end of 2035 that those bills remain within those federal affordability guidelines that I shared earlier, that our assistance programs are culturally responsive, that our rate structures are equitable and fair and in that cost distribution, that we have practices so that we can do early delinquency intervention and cost recovery practices, that we're reducing service disconnections due to financial hardship, that we continue to optimize our resources allocation and operations, and lastly, that we're diversifying our revenue sources as much as is possible. So within that pillar 1, these are the 3 different time horizons. As I mentioned earlier, we're really going to be focusing on those customer-facing initiatives in the short term, and then moving into those internal processes by 2030, and then by 2035 is more about those strategic positioning, continuous improvement, data-informed decision making, and collaborating with others in the region. Same thing when we think about the operations. Again, we're really focusing as much as we can on those things that have the biggest impact on the communities that we serve. And that you probably have heard by now on the advanced metering infrastructure project, but that's important because it's going to allow us not only to have more data and real-time data on our customers, but also going to allow monthly billing, which is a barrier right now, that the fact that we bill quarterly. And lastly, moving into our revenue, we know we have to engage a lot of our customers and community members in the value of water, because they are the owners of our system, and we need their ongoing investment in the system so that we can be financially resilient and resilient in our services as well. And looking at how we do a joint rate study that leverages the best practices and innovative approaches to collecting revenue. And lastly, as I mentioned earlier, the economies of scale, partnership, and coordinated procurement efforts. So a lot of what I've shared with you is they're very internal processes. And so we first need to recognize that we are going through a lot of change in the city of Portland right now. We also have fewer personnel than we had a few years ago, and we have a large investment backlog. And so we are going to have to be adaptive in our approach to make sure that we're always assigning the right people and the amount of resources to these initiatives. But as I mentioned earlier, our focus is really going to be on the things that have a direct and short-term impact in the community that we serve. Starting in January, we're going to build the process of creating annual work plans and putting in place a performance management process so that we can do annual program evaluations, policy analysis, community engagement. And the idea is that we're leveraging as much information so that we can do ongoing improvement of our programs and our practices so that they're getting us closer to those desired outcomes that we shared earlier. So in terms of next steps, we need to continue engaging with city leadership, DCA Dana Powell, the new city administrator, the new bureau director, and as well as make sure that all of our employees who are going to be asked to carrying out some of these strategies are well versed and aware of what we're asking of them. So a lot of internal communications and more in the medium to long term, start thinking about that value of water campaign so that we can engage the communities that we serve into understanding the needs, the investments, and also how do we shape our rate study so that we're meeting the community's needs, the small businesses that we serve as well. And lastly, recognizing that all of this work could be folded into a broader strategic plan. So as we become a new utility, we recognize that we need to be thinking about a broader process of strategic planning where we recognize the needs to maximize the value of every dollar for the customers, but be thinking broader about the levels of service for the community, the businesses, and so part of the reason we decided to reframe this, not from being an affordability strategy, but to a framework, is to recognize that a lot of the same themes will show up in a broader strategic plan. And so I hope that as we become one utility over the next 1 to 3 years, we'll be taking on strategic planning process. So I will pause there because this is all in draft mode. I believe we've done a lot of engagement. I think we came to you all in December of last year, if my memory serves me well. But all of this is still in draft mode, and so we wanted to make sure that we are hearing from you. What possibilities and opportunities exist for you. How would you like to contribute and be involved? What does success look like? So yeah, I see a few hands up, but I'm not the facilitator, so I don't.
Thank you so much for your time, Eric and Sherry. Yeah, Kyle, go ahead.
Cool. Thank you, Kyle Chipman, voting member. I have a handful of questions. They don't need to be super involved, and maybe just raising the points enough. Also, for the sake of the floor and for the whole board, if it feels like this is going on for a while, I'll curtail my questions. First, I say this with total compassion, Eric. Just as a heads up for future presentations, your audio, your mic is sounds like it bit crushes your voice, so it's challenging to hear. Like you can still hear, but I gotta work to listen. So especially if you're presenting to a really big, meaningful presentation, just double check your mic, invest in a mic, something like that. It's kind of bit crushed or something. So heads up for the future. Totally. My first question, it's a general question, is this presentation being given to the city council of a larger decision-making body, or is this just for us to become aware of current state and current progress?
I hope that eventually it will be given to city council and the DCA, but that is more about the leadership. That's a decision of the leadership of the service area. That is not at our level to make.
Groovy. Thank you so much. That's just more for my own context. And it was very clear and informative, and your objectives are also clear. So it was a very clean presentation. Very quick question. I did find the Hatfield Resident Fellowship Project brief. It was available online. It's a 2-page document. Does that feel like enough just for further elucidation, for clarification? Is the full report have anything else, or that brief kind of covers the high level stuff for some historical context from 2023?
I can try to take a stab at providing a response. I honestly wasn't aware what was published, so I'm hearing you say that there's a 2-page publication, and what he produced for us were 2 deliverables, and they were internal facing essentially. So there's been nothing that I was aware of until now that was externally published, and there is more content. So I'm sensing you might be interested in additional content.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically an executive summary of the person's findings. So I think that's sufficient. It's more if there's something greater, some greater detail, but awesome. That's super helpful response. Thank you. A general question, and I've heard the customer portal being brought up a couple times, that this is a significant focal point for the Bureau. It's a big landing point. This is kind of a general question, and it might be better directed at Director Liu or for a future agenda topic. But Do you have any sense on timing and delivery of that, how it intersects with your affordability objectives? And then also, I'm planning on building an interaction map as I just try and find publicly accessible information. Like, how can we as a board provide direction or clarity on this larger focal point for the Bureau? Intersection of timeline with your efforts on the portal, and how can we as a board support the customer portal and your efforts specifically?
Yeah, I think I see Director Light has come and she has more relevant information on your questions, so go for it.
Thank you. Quisha Light, Interim Director of the Portland Water Bureau. So the timeline for the customer engagement portal, at this point, we're trying to meet the April deadlines that are associated with some of the accessibility changes that are required from a website standpoint. And so we're really trying to launch that in early spring. And I would say we're right now, we're holding on to being on time and on with that to deliver in early spring, with some parts probably coming in a little later. And then when you think about how these things intersect, this is going to be a lot of the work that they're doing here from a program standpoint, being able to have where customers can sign up for programs and do all of that through the portal going forward. Will be, they'll be able to get information on all the various programs through that portal as we move forward. And so that's kind of how this work is intersecting. One, customers have better access, and the information will be there. I'd say the other piece is once we have AMI in place, then you have more data available to customers where they're able to control their usage and all those things. Those things won't be turned on immediately because we don't have the smart meters out there. But as the smart meters get turned on, we'll do some evaluation, and basically I think our standard that we're using right now is after we review, and we can ensure after 90 days that we are receiving the data from the meters that we're supposed to be receiving, then that customer then their data can be turned on within the customer engagement portal. So those are just some of the ways that the portal will intersect with this work.
Beautiful, thank you. I'm going to make a quick point, one more quick point, one question, and I'll yield the floor we have three other board members lined up. I would love if your design team is going through like UX feedback or user testing, if we as a board can be engaged, just to like how you click, what goes where, does this make sense? This is counterintuitive. Like I would love personally to be engaged. I think the whole board, we can provide some valuable insight. UX feedback before you get to final design implementation.
So I will say that the team is planning. This is an absolute requirement from me.
Yeah.
That customers, not employees, have to do the UX testing. Yeah. Because there's a different point of view there. So that is a requirement for the project.
Yeah, you don't want to like keep it all insular and like a vacuum, and then oh my god, goodness, like we're deployed and X, Y, and Z is discovered. I do this professionally too, so yeah. Help out. I love to help out. Okay, this one, quick point to be raised. It was specifically on the timeline slide. This is not the venue, but I want to elevate the point. I am super curious. This is a lot of large scale integration of efforts, and the timeline slide, it was really built for a PowerPoint presentation. I am deeply curious how, as not only the bureaus integrate, but these large-scale, long-term programs are put into effect, how you're tackling knowledge-based management, how you're tackling schedule and project management, and how you're tackling communication management internally. I ask that because there's also opportunities. Again, this is what I do for work, so provide feedback, but I'd like to also listen and understand. Not at this time. Last one, this is a human question, then I yield the floor. You're talking about being short-staffed. Is the team executing this? Do you feel like people are motivated and enthused around a shared vision? Or is the team so are they stuck in fight or flight mode where like the stressors of the everyday with this large scale effort on top is just like cortisol levels are running high and people are stressed? And I want to answer that in a public forum.
I could answer as much as I can from where I sit in the organization, but I would love to invite directors like Liu to share in. And just to address your first question regarding the timeline, one of the things that Sherry and I are going to be doing in early January, once we want to get past the design phase and of the framework so that we can move into implementation. One of the things we're going to be doing is developing templates for implementation so that we can establish measurable outcomes for each one of the strategies and then assemble the right teams and let the teams develop the work plans, because this is not the only thing that they're working on. There's a lot of different changes happening. And so we need to play that three-dimensional chess that's happening. Some teams are going to move to the service area. We're in the midst of integrating the utilities. And so there's a lot of change happening. And with regards to stress levels, I mean, I would be surprised. Any change of this magnitude triggers a lot of fears and concerns of employees. And over the last year, the city has made some changes, and there's concern among employees. Those are being managed as best as they can be managed at different levels of the organization. But there's a lot of change initiatives happening in the city, and this is one of them.
Thank you. And thank you to my board members for the 10 minutes of questions. I appreciate all that time. Thank you.
Yeah, I just this is Director Ting Lu, BES. I just want to follow up on Eric's comment, and thank you so much, Kyle, for your questions and also the engagement and feedback. I just want to say, as part of this changing environment, we actively prioritize on what are the active and most impactful for the community. So affordability is definitely a big part of the outcome we're trying to get to. You also notice there is a phased approach. So we're really looking to, we can't get everything at once, but we're looking to this 1 year, 3 year, and 10-year plan for the future. Last piece I also want to say is thank you so much for helping us to engaging the customers and getting this launched. So we definitely look for some creative ideas like a QR code or things. How can we get the community out and getting them to be really excited about this too? So I see there will be a lot of conversation with the board and others to make this a success.
Thank you, Director Liu. Appreciate your additional commentary. Lorraine, go ahead.
Lorraine Wilson, pub member. Based on the PowerPoint presentation, I think it was strategy 2. And if you could pull it up, please.
Yeah, give me one.
It kind of aligns with what some of what was said before, but as you all know, I don't trust my memory, even if it's short term, sometimes. There we go. So I was looking at, specifically, you all were talking about the customer engagement portal. Let me lower my hand. And the AMI and customer self-service tools. Having attended a lot of the ERC meetings, I think this is salient with regard to some of what we deal with at the ERC. You know, customers, certain situations happen, and customers have to come to get a review based on whether it's a leak or whether it's whatever. And I'm like, okay, the city, as you rightly said, is you're doing more with less. My concern is that in moving towards these efficiencies, which is a good thing, that we don't leave our customers further behind. And this is me speaking as someone who hates to go on a portal, hates it, whether it's to go pay my credit card. If I don't sit down and do everything in one day, I hate it. So yes, we're moving towards efficiency, but bearing in mind what is going to be parallel, what is going to be that human interaction, what is going to be that resolving it in the beginning rather than at the end, that is going to be taken into consideration with regard to customers as we move forward, as I support it wholly, and recognizing that there are also these challenges, because the people who come to ARC is based on something that is human that's happening in their lives. So I just wanted to ask that question.
Can I take this since you're coming out of customer service? Thank you for that question, Lorraine. So I will tell you, when we looked at all of this in customer service, right now we have about 80% of our service that is via people contacting us, calling us, because they can't, and we probably have over 50% of those folks who really do want to go online. And so we're trying to sort of flip that 80% where we can send 80% online and we can actually use the other 20% for the human to human interaction that you're talking about. Because the problem is, when all the calls are coming in, my staff can't address things the way that they need to as fully, or the people are on hold so long that it makes it really challenging to get to everyone. And so then you see your phone abandonment rates go up because people are on hold, because the calls are more complex, they require more human interaction and time. And we are trying to increase the access to information through the portal. That's where all the knowledge management and everything will come together, so that customers who want to use those tools can go there, because we have a lot of people calling us that really never wanted to call us, but they had to click 10 times to find something, or they clicked 10 times and they didn't find it. And then the other aspect that doesn't necessarily show up in this is, we don't have the ability right now to address something called first call resolution, right? The idea that the first time a customer calls, their issue gets resolved. I don't have a way of measuring that. I don't have a way of really following up on that with my employees. And these tools will allow us to ensure that the first time people are calling us, we're helping them with their problem. Because I've also found that with the ARC, people end up going to the ARC because we just didn't have, the customer rep just was trying to rush through the call, did not fully address the thing. And if we had taken just a little bit more time, we probably could have avoided some things going to the ARC. So I think the new tools will bring about, will help with a lot of those things. So we're not trying to remove the human aspect. I'm actually trying to create space to deal with those things, so we minimize things going to the ARC.
Thanks, Director Light, because and I'm fresh off an ARC meeting and it was $100. Okay, so that's why I'm asking this, and it's good to know that this is going to be complimentary and actually free people time up. But I just thought that it was important to raise that point, because from the cases that come to ARC, it really shows that the staff are putting in the effort and time. When you read the case history and how many times they contact them and they call them, and I want to give kudos to the staff that do that, and but also to ensure that as we move towards these efficiencies, because it's just one track mind: efficiency, efficiency, efficiency. We don't want to talk to people anymore, so that we keep these 2 things or 3 things in mind as we move forward. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Thanks, Lorraine. Jenny, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Jenny O'Connor, voting member. I get stuck on that $8 billion of deferred maintenance in terms of looking at the big picture. And I'm wondering, and this really isn't off topic because it's really a overall strategy of okay, what do we do best with our money? And you've put so much resources and thoughtfulness and guidance into the affordability programs. And I guess I just want to see and find out from you folks, what are you doing with the $8 billion of deferred maintenance? Has it been prioritized? Is it being monitored? What is the program for doing that? And it is related because it's under the whole strategic plan, right? And it did show in that pillar two, the same slide that Lorraine just asked for, you have a 2026 through 2035 asset management optimization. And I'm wondering, does all that $8 billion worth of all that infrastructure, does that fall under there? It really makes me nervous, that so much, and it is, it shouldn't be a trade-off. It's like you're looking at the whole package. You have this infrastructure and you have a whole lot of it that's not being taken care of it or, monitored at least. And I just want to see what you're doing with that so I can see the whole picture. I can see the affordability program. I can see also what you're doing in terms of monitoring and taking care of the priorities of the system. Thanks.
Yeah, I can answer that question from a risk perspective, and thank you so much for your concern. This is definitely part of the priority and our holistic strategy to how do we bring the affordable rates while continue being sustainable to strengthening our assets. So there are multiple ways that we are prioritizing this deferred maintenance. So we are looking to the most impactful to the communities as well as most of the high risk assets that could be failure to the community. So those are our process prioritization perspective to look into that. We are also looking to, from a portfolio perspective, looking to more of a larger diameter pipes versus smaller pipes. The impact is going to be less. So it is an active discussion that we are looking to that. For anything that we can invest in the capital dollars because of the budget constraints, we are also making sure there is a contingency fund and to making sure we really address this at the emergency level and minimize the community's impact too. Which it's ongoing this balance of a CIP versus how do we making sure that our operation continue to be efficient and optimize it at the best as we can, as well as having that contingency and addressing emergency situations and repairs as well. So it is very much a balancing impact every day.
So you do have staff allocated to doing that. Is there any way we could at some point get a update or?
Yes, happy to. Yeah, Jenny, happy to. We do have a risk assessment team that focus on large level risk assessment and prioritization on a portfolio approach from BES. So we can follow up on getting a presentation to you all later. And I would love to talk with the director Light, and we can also look into how we bring this at the joint utility perspective.
Thanks so much.
Just quickly jumping in before Brooke takes the floor. Jenny, I'm right there with you. Like this stresses me out bad, stresses me out long term, and all of that unified capital improvement program effort that was presented a couple months back, the report earlier than that showing the risk and liability of splintering asset management across bureaus. Like purely next leadership meeting, I want to raise it. I want to raise this point in the city council work session. Like I'm right there with you, Jenny. So I also want to escalate this. So just a quick bully and seconding your point.
Lone Wilson here. Let me just jump in and put some perspective on this. This deferred maintenance, this is the years in the making. As a matter of fact, there's currently a senior leadership member in the city right now who was responsible for one of these bureaus that created this backlog. So let's put perspective on it. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be addressed, but as it is being addressed, let us hope that with the recruitment that we have going on now, as we move forward, that we have the right person in the place who has the right skills to do so, to create this ongoing, because it's not only with it's with all the utilities, it's with parks, it's with this. I used to work at the city. So let's remember there are people in senior positions who are in charge of some of these bureaus when these backlogs were just, I don't know what they were doing. But let's put some perspective on that. And I just wanted to say that as we move forward and we hold the city accountable to doing what needs to be done to ensure that we don't end up with catastrophic failure of city assets. Put perspectives on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorraine, and thank you, Jenny. I'm gonna defer to Brooke, and then I think we should move on, but definitely keep those comments coming, and we can consider them as we're working on internal work and moving into leadership meetings. Definitely want to take all of these concerns and go with them. Brooke, go ahead. Thanks for your patience.
Thank you, and thank you all, city staff, for the presentation. Really comprehensive overview. It was helpful for me to see where we are in terms of affordability. I had one kind of backward-looking question just about the process getting up to where we are now, and then one forward-looking question. And my backward-looking question, I was wondering if it's possible to show the slide that had the 3 components of the Vision 2035, and it had kind of more specific items underneath each of those components with rough time ranges. And my question, that's just more for a reminder for myself, but my question is also just kind of like on the how like the prioritization of those activities kind of came about for their different timelines. And I just want to make sure I'm remembering correctly what those looked like. I just remember the question came up in my head as we were listening.
This one, what we're looking for?
I think it was maybe the next one, the next couple that well, actually, you know what, this is
Or maybe this
one. No, sorry, I had a little more detail, but maybe if you could go back to that pillar one slide, because I remember seeing the pillar 2 slide before. Okay, yeah, I think that wasn't clear to me originally, like the 3 kind of focuses in terms of like where these activities are happening. I was thinking it was more of a sequential than a parallel process. So
yeah, it is a parallel process, and part of the reason we set this kind of mileposts is with the recognition. Kyle's earlier question, what's the bandwidth of the staff capacity, right? And so it was also in consultation with our various subject matter experts, and when they think they can deliver on the various benefits. That doesn't mean that the work stops there, right? When we think about updating our financial assistance programs, well, we have to do a big push to update them because they haven't been updated in a while. But then from there on, there's going to be a process of annual program evaluation, make sure that we're continuously updating them to the evolving needs of the community.
And just a quick add-on, is that part of that updating work? Is there going to be like any kind of like regular evaluation process or like internal evaluation process, yeah, or anything that we okay.
Yeah, and it's actually one of, I think I shared in one of the slides in terms of implementation, annual program evaluation is one of the goals. That is one of the things that we need to figure out how that's going to get done, because internally we don't have the capacity, and so we need to probably, and it's probably going to be better if it's done by an independent third party And so we need to figure out, is that work that we want to consult out, or can the city auditor do it? And so that's one of those pieces that we want and need to figure out how is that going to happen.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. My second question, I'll try to be very brief. I was really curious on the topic of kind of evaluating the equitability of the rate structure going forward. And I know that that's an ongoing process in both departments. I'm wondering, I guess, like what level, how much room is there? What latitude is there for like what kind of revisions or evaluation are we talking about? Is there opportunity for like a totally different form of rate structure, like moving to a tiered rate or increasing block rate structure? And are those conversations, I'm guessing they've already happened previously. Are they ongoing? I'm just hoping to get a little more information on that aspect of things.
Yeah, we are starting to work on a scope of work for request for proposals. And so all of the above, right? We need to be evaluating all of the possible rates models and then evaluate those alternatives because they all have pros and cons. And ultimately, that is, a city council decision when they approve our rates. They are the ultimate deciders through the rate ordinance. And we are hoping that that is a very participatory process where you and community members and community-based organizations are helping on what does an equitable rate structure look like for moving forward. There's been some really exciting studies done recently in other jurisdictions about using better data and using ability to pay and other socioeconomic and demographic factors woven into those rate structures. But again, they all come with pros and cons, and it's about where do we want to tolerate different various degrees of risk.
Okay, that's helpful to know that the suite of options are open. So yeah, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Brooke. And thanks to our presenters, Eric and Sherry, and everybody who provided input. Really appreciate your time.
Well, thank you all.
I know we don't have too much time left, but again, thank you for being here. Thank you for the presentation. It was really helpful. And if more questions and comments come up, we'll be sure to send them your way.
Great. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is I would love to hear if you have any other thoughts, comments, ideas, anything that would make this stronger. Please let us know because that's the hope, is that we can make this as strong and robust as possible.
Awesome. Thanks, Eric. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Have a great day.
You too. All right. I know we only have about 5 minutes left. Kyle, if you wanted to go ahead and take the floor, or
I will. The floor. Okay, cool. I'm going to blast through. I have prepared a couple of workshop exercises. Actually, stop share. Just talk for 30 seconds. We are operating out of 2-week intervals, and every time we end a meeting, the next time we can connect is 2 weeks. And those chunks of time are big chunks when we're looking at end of January for a possible city council work session. Chatting briefly with John Lynn and Amy, I know that there's even complications, and the clarity of who to ask in our revised governmental structure to make a request is even slightly non-clear. So we're not only facing down the challenges of time, but non-clarity and on an administrative capacity on city council. So my goal today was that we can visually build consensus, align around a couple of key shared objectives, what we would want to either address or what consensus we'd want to build through a work session, and then look at the timeline before that big budget cycle hits end of January, how we can maximize our impact for that conversation. Lauren, John Lynn, Amy, or the whole board, does that make sense the way that was said? Does anybody have any comments or thoughts around that kind of clarity of approach?
No, it sounds right.
Beautiful. All right, cool. In that case, I will share my screen. This will not be run now, but I want to set expectations for when we can meet and when we can execute on this. Because I feel like without doing it, we kind of talk, and another 2 weeks is lost. So here's what I got. There was going to be an initial icebreaker where I've organized all city council members per district and also color-coded their engagement with specific committees. Really, transportation and infrastructure is our key one, but there's other ones here. Oh, actually, John Lynn, as I'm bringing this up, can you shoot the link out? If you're on your computer, you can jump in here with me. I'll also be sharing my screen. You can just watch. So this first icebreaker exercise, which I still think is valuable, is that all of our names up here, we each have a little square. I can either drag them or we can all jump here and you can drag them down. We just put which district each of us lives. And then if there's any existing relationships or points of entry or access to council members, if there's like long-term relationship building in terms of specific people as opposed to the, council as a whole organizational unit. So that's exercise the first. Exercise the second is around ideation and clustering. And this is really about how do we build objective, how do we build consensus around what we want to talk about. Like I either share my screen and we just like listen, I drag on, hey, sticky, fun water initiative. Awesome, cool. Ooh, another one. I really want to talk about asset management. I literally want to talk about that. So then ideally we could all be in here dragging, we create the stickies, or I just do it. But we're kind of building out, boom, big splatter of all the possible thoughts. I also have our work plan initiatives up top for reference if people wanted to just dive into that. Oh, cool. Okay, here, check it. I'll bring everyone to me. So thank you for joining me on the board. And then we kind of use those initial ideation. We cluster them to look for, oh, here's a point of alignment. Here's a point of intersection. And then I've also, once again, got our names logged in the upper right. So we can be like, ooh, these two people, you want to break out and do this thing. Awesome. You want to do this thing. Groovy, groovy. Yeah, so that's like ideation and clustering. And then finally, timeline over here. I prepared this timeline. I'm going to go ahead and collapse it just so we can get a high level view. With a couple of key date ranges. We first have, working backwards, Portland 26-27 Portland City budget, which includes pulling dates from the budget development calendar as well as last year's rough in dates for key milestones. You can expand this and it's like, all the key stuff when it occurs, what and when a prospective work session would be, just a reminder of the holidays. And then finally, pub work session planning that we have this window of time alongside. I just also logged all of our meetings. So ideally what we'd be doing, we build consensus around one or two key objective or points of focus. We drag some names, and then we think roughly those people or our meetings, when can we align the work to prepare and really get locked in with a drop dead date to confirm, yes, we want to meet here. That's what I prepared. How does that feel for folks, that approach? You can do a thumbs up too. There's not a lot of time. Or like a big frowny face if you're disgusted. Oh, wow, thumbs up. All right, cool. How exciting. That was kind of a leading, like who's actually going to say, yeah, that sucks in a react state.
Well, I know
awesome.
I ended commentary periods throughout the meeting saying, oh, we'll talk about it at internal work later. But
shit, no.
Sorry.
No, it was honestly, that's like the nature of reacting with high level stuff, that big chunk of time at the very start kind of shoot into.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you, Kyle. Really appreciate that. Amy, I don't know if we want to jump into announcements in the next meeting, and we should definitely set some time to do some of this internal work so that we don't keep pushing it off.
Yeah, I just acknowledge that we are at time, so we'll just take a minute to just highlight with announcements that additional email went out about an opportunity looking for a pub member or two pub members to participate in an expert panel for the next year for oversight of the major Bull Run filtration project. And so there's more details in email and can discuss it further at the next meeting. But the timeline, of course, would be convening this group. I think there would be convening in January. So hopefully want to discuss it with you all and identify whether there's capacity among members to participate at the level that is being sought. It's a great opportunity. It's the kind of approach that we have seen be successful in working with the bureaus on significant projects. Wanted to, the rest of the stuff we will connect via message. Just keep us posted if with holidays, there's any known absences coming up so that we can plan our meetings around that. And wanted to give the floor to Jonna Lynn for any final field trip stuff, since that is just tomorrow and we have almost everybody able to attend. So we should have a good turnout, and just want to make sure that any final logistics are noted.
I wanted to talk with you all after we wrap the recording, since it would just be logistics, no actual board discussion, to finalize carpools and then just give a little bit of detail about how to get to the facility and where to park. So if you're able to stay after the meeting, great. And if not, and you need a little extra information, please feel free to call me or email or text me, and I can give that to you outside of the meeting. I want to be respectful of your time, but just wanted to finalize those carpools, or just get permission to connect folks who are planning to carpool together. And then I can email folks together so you can coordinate with one another for carpools. Okay, and I see there are some folks that are going to walk or bike. And Kyle?
Yeah, John Lynn, I was thinking about biking. Is that like dangerous up there? Because I saw there was a path along, like, I've tried to bike. I bike to St. John's, semi-regularly, so I know that trip. But there's one stretch that's like super traffic dense. I never felt safe biking. What's the viability like?
I live like right there, and I run along Columbia all the time. It's not bad. There's a path on the south side of Columbia that I don't know where you're coming from, Kyle, but that
Tabor area.
Yeah, that you can just like go along there, or you could go along the Willamette and then go through the cut to go. So it's really easy to bike.
Thank you, Alexis. I'll probably just bike. Is there like bike storage? Is it
There's just like it's just like it's like a normal bike rack.
Oh, sick. Yeah. I'll just bike them tomorrow. That sounds good. Thank you.
So folks can stay on at the end. We obviously have a lot of follow-up on items that we didn't get a chance to talk about today, as well as some items that we had already planned to talk about in December. And we'll be having a leadership team meeting in the middle there with the leadership folks and the co-chairs. So if you have priorities that you want to make sure are addressed in that, reach out to us or the chairs, and we'll make sure that our topics are covered and that we have clear planning for the upcoming December and January meetings. Otherwise, I think we can probably officially wrap, and then folks can do final logistics.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We can call it adjourned. I'm happy to stay